of Russian forces towards Mariupol. Now among our military that are wounded, now they are delivered to the medical establishments of Mariupol and other settlements. The information as to number of losses is being updated. The military of the National Guard and voluntary battalions, together with the armed forces, continue to hold the defense of the city. From the territory of Russia, Grad systems shelled the positions of Ukrainian forces near Makarova, and from Smerch, Nizhny Michinok of Lugansk region. Russians also were shelling the positions and checkpoints of Ukrainian military near Stanitsa Lugansk and Nikishina Stukalova Balka. I would like to remind that according to the instructions of the President of Ukraine, on the basis of the Security Service of Ukraine, there was an intersectoral assistance center set up for citizens on liberating prisoners, hostages, and finding those who disappeared. The head coordinator of the center is appointed the deputy head of Security Service of Ukraine, General Lieutenant Lysenko. The domestic and international public organizations, voluntary movements will be involved into the work of this body. This intersectoral center will be working in Kiev, Irinenska Street 4. The first personal reception will be made by the chairman of Security Service of Ukraine, Lysenko, and coordinator of the center, Lysenko, on the 6th of September at 11. Besides this, there's a call center hotline for citizens, 0800 501 482 or 044, that's code of Kiev, 235 63 67. In the occupied by terrorist cities, the terrorists disseminate information about the planned exchange of passports of the citizens of Ukraine to passports of so-called Donetsk and the Lugansk People's Republics. Also, the terrorists demand from the leadership of communal and state companies to make inventory of all the assets. In Stakhanova, Lugansk regions, the terrorists established the scheme of bringing the scrap metal to the territory of Russian Federation to sell it. The Federal Migration Service of Russian Federation provided to representatives of so-called Lugansk People's Republic the lists of the citizens of Ukraine out of the citizens of Lugansk region who have the status of refugees when they were leaving to Russian Federation during ATO. Now the heads of the terrorist organizations and terrorists are planning to use the apartments and private houses of these refugees for permanent location of militants and Russian servicemen and for further nationalization, because the terrorists destroyed the water supply to Zolotep of Pervomaisk region of Lugansk region. The water supply is stopped to the cities of Pervomaisk, Bryanka, Stakhanov. Partially multi-storied residential areas in Shastya are disconnected from gas supply. In Lysychansk of Lugansk region, one of the main transportation highways is renewed, Tomaszewski vehicle bridge. As to international support, the President of Ukraine, Poroshenko, who is in the NATO summit in Wales, continues bilateral meetings with the leadership of leading countries of the world. In Newport today, there was a meeting of the President of Ukraine with the Chancellor of Germany, Merkel. They discussed the issues of cooperation in implementation of the peace plan of the President, including achievement of ceasefire. Angela Merkel completely supports the initiatives of Petro Poroshenko. This is all for now. Now your questions. Natalia Malerchuk, TRK Ukraine. My question is, what is the situation in Donetsk airport? There was fighting for it, and there's information that local citizens saw Uragan systems. Is that true? I can tell that Now the airport of Donetsk is under the control of Ukrainian military. What's happening in Donetsk and what types of weapons are in the streets or in the suburbs and what is used by militants and Russians, we do not know. And what about Lugansk airport? There's information that Russian military are repairing it in Lugansk airport. There are no Ukrainian armed forces. When withdrawing, they mined and blew off the takeoff and landing strip. As to repair works on the territory of the airport, we have no information about that. And as to the front line, there's information that Ukrainian armed forces are withdrawing towards Debaltseva, at least after the ceasefire is declared by both sides. All movements will stop, this fire will be ceased, and we expect that the agreements which have been reached will be executed. We hope that the opponents will stick to these agreements and they will not make any provocations. Ukrainian military are ready to observe the agreements that have been achieved.
What about the situation in the area of Mariupol, and how many do you estimate tanks, heavy tanks from the pro-Russian or the Russian are involved in the fighting? And at the moment, according to your information, are they still fighting with the same intensity of this morning and yesterday evening? Thank you.
The situation near Mariupol has been stabilized. The attempts of terrorists to move towards Mariupol were stopped at the in the area that is under the control of Ukrainian military. We do not know the number of tanks and the armored equipment that is in the hands of Russian mercenaries who are dislocated in Novoazovsk. And how intensive it is. Yesterday's and today's intensive actions were similar. They are at the same intensive level. Yes.
There's a question, is there contained in the agreement for a ceasefire that Ukrainian forces would remove artillery positions within the disputed regions, withdraw those?
The main condition of this agreement and the order issued by the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the President of Ukraine, is ceasefire. The places of dislocation, at least of Ukrainian units, are not changed. We expect that this agreement will be fulfilled, which has an item about liberating all the hostages. The ceasefire regime will help exchange hostages and continue peaceful negotiations. Any other questions? Then thank you.
Раз, два.